Good morning. It is good to be back with you at Bible Study today. For those of you who are signing on and showing up online live, that's great to have you here with us. For the rest of you who are watching by delay, that is great as well. My name is Kevin. I have the privilege of serving at Christ Table as lead clergy. And we're so glad that you're here with us for these live Bible studies each and every day as we are working through Lent and also working through the Gospel of Mark. Now, if you'd like to know more about Christ Table, you can visit the URL that is right up there in the corner of the screen at any time, www.christstable.today. And if you'd like to know more specifically about Christ Table, would encourage you whenever you get to that website to put your email address in there so that you can be updated on all the things that are happening around Christ Table, like these Bible studies, and so that you can receive all of the helpful resources that go along with them. We give those away for free, and you can get a study guide that tells you each and every day of this study so that you can be prepared what the Bible study section is in Mark, for that day by going to the URL right there at the bottom of the screen, go.christstable.today/journey. Also, there is a full PDF booklet on there, absolutely free, no strings attached. You don't even have to put your email in there in order to get it. That will give you a study guide for each and every day as we walk through this journey. Now, if you want a printed guide and all of the associated maps and resources and a box full of spiritual resources to help you on this journey, now you can get that as well. There's a place where you can get that right there. You can get this PDF copy. You can get this printed copy of the PDF that is there, and we'd love for you to participate in helping us out in that way, because that helps us keep these resources coming to you for free, and your donation helps us to do that. So what we're working on in this Bible study is a little bit different. If you're joining us for the first time, it's a little bit different than most Bible studies. In most Bible studies, you're kind of dissecting the text, you're getting into it, you're nuancing it. Oftentimes we're looking at the Greek, we're looking at the Hebrew, we're trying to split hairs in order to see specifically what's going on as we read through the text. This study that we're working through this time is a little bit different. I might even say it's a lot different if you've never done anything like this before. Instead of reading the text and dissecting it, you're allowing the text to read you. This is a very old practice called Lectio Divina, and it is a contemplative practice, which is kind of just a big word, contemplative, that means obviously contemplate. And so you're allowing yourself the space and the freedom to contemplate the text. Now, traditionally, there are several steps to doing this Bible study, and we don't actually do all of them here. So I'm hoping that you will take the time on your own to walk through this and do this in your own time. But there are 5 steps. Prepare yourself, put yourself in a space where you are able to kind of focus, then read through the text one time. Try to avoid any of the study notes or any of those things so that you're not allowing other people or other voices other than God and yours to understand kind of where this text is, what's happening in this text. Then take some time to reflect on it. Maybe read through it a second time or a third time and just kind of sit with it. Pour over the word, see what stands out to you. In the respond section, what you do is maybe journal. Maybe you think of a thing or two that can do or change or remove or add, some sort of active engagement with the text, and then just simply spend some time at the end resting. Maybe that's in prayer, maybe that's in reflection, whatever that looks like to you. And this process should be given time if you're able to do it. Now, if you only have 10 or 15 minutes, then that's fine. Do it. You can do it in that amount of time. If you have a half an hour, if you have 40, 45 minutes, then all the better on some days. So whenever we come to today's text in Mark chapter 1, the second half of Mark chapter 1, verses 21 through 45, we're going to kind of see Jesus put it into 5th gear, and the text takes off, and the journey with Jesus just kind of begins, racing through the journey of the first few days and weeks and months of Jesus' ministry. What you're going to find in Mark is that Mark moves quickly. He is here, then he's there, then he's somewhere else, and you can almost get whiplash as Mark is following Jesus to different places, and it seems as though almost, unless you're paying attention, Jesus never really pauses. In fact, Mark kind of has this word or this phrase that he uses over and over again, and it's immediately Jesus goes here, immediately Jesus goes to this city. And so there is this sense in Mark that we don't quite get so clearly in the other gospels of urgency, of momentum. And so as we're working through the book of Mark, what I hope that we'll do is kind of be paying attention to some of those things of which Mark may be pointing out are the reasons behind the urgency that Jesus has, and this drive to move quickly, because that's the way that Mark has written it. So, like I said, there's a bit of a different Bible study. As we jump into this, I'm not going to dissect the text. I'm not going to walk through all of the verses that we have and explain them to you and pull out the Greek and try to explain what Jesus is doing. And I'm trying to take a bit of a different direction with this Bible study. And as I walked through the contemplative practice with this text, I am just going to show you a few things that rose up as I was ruminating on the text, a few words that stuck out to me, a few phrases that stuck out to me. You may, as you go through the Lectio Divina, you may have other things, other words, other phrases that stick out to you and kind of get caught in your mind as you're reading through it and contemplating the text. Or there may be some of them that's the same. So why don't we jump in? Today I have 3 for us, and they're relatively easy. At the very beginning of this text, Jesus finds himself engaging with an evil spirit. So a man in a synagogue, who is in the synagogue where Jesus is teaching here in the text, was possessed by an evil spirit, and he cries out, and I've put the bold in here, "Why are you interfering with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." Now, there is a lot going on in this text. Theologically, there are a lot of important indications in this text that Mark is pointing out to us of Jesus' messiahship, of Jesus' divinity, there's just a lot going on here. And I'm just going to, because of the way we're looking at this text and say, we're going to completely avoid all that because we don't want to dissect the text in that way in this moment. If you want to do that, feel free to go ahead and do that. But for our purposes, what we're kind of looking we're looking at things in this text that are reading us. Why are you interfering with us, Jesus of Nazareth, is one of those things that just kind of stopped me in my tracks as I was reading through this. And I wondered, as I was reading through it and contemplating it, I wondered if there have been moments in my journey where I have interfered with Jesus, where the actions that I've taken, the words that I've said, the way in which I've interacted with individuals has interfered. Now here it's Jesus that's doing the interfering, and so that's probably a positive thing. But if I'm doing the interfering with Jesus, then that's probably not necessarily a positive thing. I wonder if there are people that maybe I have avoided engaging with or interacting with because of one reason or another, and that's interfere with Jesus. I wonder if sometimes maybe the things that I have voted for, the people that I've voted for, the causes or initiatives that I have thrown my support or weight behind or withheld it from, has interfered with Jesus. And I sat with that for a while. And I wondered if there were times where maybe Jesus has interfered with me. Maybe there were those moments where I was standing in the shoes of the evil spirit here, where I've been in the place of the evil spirit, where I've had an evil spirit. I know, does it feel weird to think of yourself in that way? It kind of does, right? But just go with it. This is contemplation. I wonder if there have been moments where I've had the evil spirit, and where Jesus has tried to interfere, tried to break that. How did I respond? Did I respond in the same way? Did I respond in a different way? Well, if you want to know how this evil spirit responded, well, I guess you're just going to have to pull up the text and read the text, right? So there's the first one. So the second one, as we go a little bit later, Jesus begins to move through these cities and through these synagogues and continues to engage with people. And we begin to see him healing people. And it gets really busy. And we see very early on, and we see this in all of the Gospels, where Jesus takes time to disconnect, even in the earliest days of his ministry. So before daybreak the next morning, Jesus got up and went out to an isolated place to pray. And I bolded that because that was the thing that stuck out to me. Later, Simon and the others, they go out to find him. And when they find him, they say, "Everyone's looking for you," which I think is pretty normal. If you have kids, if you have jobs, if you have responsibilities, everybody oftentimes seems to be wanting something from you, needing something from you, looking for something from you. It's never about you. It's always about them and what they need. Jesus certainly, especially here, just as we've begun in chapter 1 of the book of Mark, has to be feeling that everybody needs or wants something from him, especially whenever they find out that he is handing out rebukes of religious idiocy freely and handing out healing of broken people even more freely. Yeah, everybody's going to want something from you. If that's the thing that you are handing out, that's pretty awesome, pretty amazing. But Jesus seems to avoid in moments doing the good thing, rebuking, healing, for doing what may have well been the better thing, resting, relaxing. And specifically here, and we'll see this with Jesus, is he is utilizing that time almost always, it seems, not just to disconnect, but to disconnect in order to reconnect with God. Prayer. We see it there in the bold. Jesus got up and went out to an isolated place to pray. What stood out to me here wasn't just, as I was contemplating this, wasn't just that Jesus prayed, but that Jesus went to an isolated place to pray, or that Jesus went to a place where there were no distractions or were away from the things that distracted him. You know, for some of us, being completely alone in an empty room with no noise is an isolated place. For me, I got so used to having 4 kids and the noise associated with 4 kids that if you were to put me in a completely quiet room with no distractions, I actually couldn't focus. I have to be like in a mall food court or in a Starbucks where there's a whole lot of noise and chaos going on around me. I have to have that noise and those people around me for me to isolate and contemplate. But for many of us, what we need isolated from is different. Some of us need isolated from people. Some of us need isolated from work. Some of us need isolated from our kids for a little while. Some of us need isolated from electronics. Some of us need isolated from, maybe it's food. I don't know. But for all of us, I think that what we need isolated from in order to connect or reconnect with ourselves or with God is going to look different. Jesus' isolated place in order to pray was almost always the wilderness outside of town where nobody could find him. And yet they still tried. Where's yours? Where's your isolated place? And if you don't find yourself in a season where prayer seems to be coming easily to you, connection with God, reconnecting with yourself, then I wonder if perhaps there may be an inability or an unwillingness to find isolation. So I said there were 2. We still got a little bit of time. So let's go ahead and deal with the third one that I found. And you may have others. These may be the things that stick out to you. I don't know. So Jesus is healing, and a man with leprosy comes and kneels in front of him and begs to be healed. If you're willing, the man, there comes my Midwestern Appalachian accent there. If you're willing, you can heal me and make me clean, he said. And moved with compassion, Jesus reached out and touched him. A lot of moments where Jesus heals people or changes people's lives radically is based on, and you'll see this, in that he is moved with compassion, in that it hits him not just here, but it hits him here in the heart and the soul. I feel like we have, as a people, as a society, increasingly disconnected from each other. We build walls, both literal and figurative, between us and difficult things, between us and difficult people, between us and difficult situations. We isolate ourselves from the problems in our community, the people who are struggling. Somebody else can handle that. The police can fix that. The programs in our community that my tax dollars go to support can fix that. The people and governments from their homeland can fix that. It's not my job. It's not our responsibility. And I think if we are thinking of the world through the lens of nations and governments and rights and what is our problem and what is not our problem from a kingdom of man, if you're watching this in the United States, from the kingdom of the United States, then yeah, you may be right. But when we put on the new man, the new woman, as the New Testament talks about this life with Christ, as we put on this new garment, this new way of living, the way of Jesus, everybody, all of humanity, becomes equal. No male or female, no black or white, no Jew or Gentile, no mine and yours, no insider and outsider, no immigrant, refugee, or citizen. We're all one with a responsibility to care for the needs of all. That, for the Christian, for the follower of Jesus Christ, changes how we live and how we interact and how we see the world, how we see other people, and the things that we meet need-wise change. What drives that? To me, what drives that is compassion, is empathy, that Jesus saw people. And I fear that for myself and for many Christians, that the reason why we many times don't act like Christ is because we have ceased to place ourselves in situations where we are moved with compassion for other people. If we build walls that distance us from others, from needs, from those who are unlike us, then we will never be faced with an opportunity where we are face to face with somebody who otherwise we might deny their need, but who, as a Christian, we must be moved with compassion and work to meet that need, even if it isn't our responsibility socially, nationally. We have a responsibility to be compassionate and to meet the needs of all people. It's living like Jesus. Well, that's all the time that I have for today. Thanks for being with us on this study. Looking forward to the next day 3 as we jump into Mark chapter 2. If you want to know more, again, about Christ Table, www.christstable.today. And if you'd like to download the study guide that will help you work through this practice of contemplative Bible reading, then go ahead and download the PDF that's right there at the bottom of the screen, go.christstable.today/journey. And until